Hello there, you're tuned into the hottest debate show on TV. My name is Femi Akonde, and this is The Big Issue. Wow, a few months after the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, released the timetable for the 2019 general elections, the House of Representatives seeks to change the order. The Green Chamber effected this change by deliberating and passing a bill to amend the 2010 Electoral Act. Now, the amended bill proposes that the National Assembly election would hold first, followed by the gubernatorial and also state assembly polls, and the presidential election, the big one, will come last. This is unlike previous elections conducted in the past. The presidential election would usually come first, while others would follow, though President Muhammadu Buhari has refused to assent this bill, stating that it will infringe upon the constitutionally guaranteed discretion of INEC, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, to organize, undertake, and supervise elections, provided in Section 15A of the Third Statute of the Constitution. Analysts, stakeholders, and political watchers have reacted to the reordering of the 2019 election timetable. For some of them, it is illegal and against the Constitution. Others say there is nothing unconstitutional about tinkering with the Electoral Act. They say it will deepen democracy in the country. So today on The Big Issue, we would ask, should the presidential election precede other elections? Well, when we come back from this short break, it will be time to toss the coin. And of course, you have to take your side. You're still watching The Big Issue. Welcome back. Should the presidential election precede other elections? A big question on The Big Issue. Well, on the debate with me today is a lawyer, a political analyst, Barrister Fred Nzeakor. Let's welcome Barrister Fred Nzeakor. Please take this side of the podium. Well, Barrister Fred is in support of the reordering of the election timetable. He will pitch his tent with the presidential election coming last. And of course, he will tell us why. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
On the other side of the coin is also a lawyer. He is the president of Voters Awareness Initiative. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Barrister Wale Ogunade. Welcome, sir. All right. Welcome, sir. Well, Barrister Wale believes it is unconstitutional to reorder the election timetable, and it's better to have the presidential election. He feels it's better and also democratic to have the presidential election come first, as it has always been. Thank you for coming on The Big Issue, Barrister Wale. A round of applause for him again. But Barrister Wale, you must tell us first why you think that the election timetable should be left the way it is. What is wrong in changing it?
The student cannot dictate to the teacher. Election is to the politician what an examination is to a student. The student cannot tell or order the teacher the type of examination and the time he will take his paper. The politicians, particularly members of the National Assembly, knows that they have failed in their constitutional duty, particularly to their constituents. And they know that examination time is coming via the election. And they know that once the election of the president takes place, obviously it will affect them. And of course, most of them have messed up it is clear. They all know. They too have known that they have messed up. And the only way out is for them to have their own election first, through hook or crook. They know that they can't get the party ticket of their current political party. And they know that there is no independent candidacy in the system.
All right then. Barrister Nzeakor, you heard him. The students can't dictate to the teachers. Is that what they're trying to do with all this political game of reordering the election timetable?
Yeah, let us see who the student is and who the teacher is, if we have to extend my learned friend's argument. Who is the student and who is the teacher?
The students are the lawmakers, and the teacher is
INEC.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful. Did INEC constitute itself to become a teacher? INEC came by law, and that law is the Constitution, and then INEC came by law, supported by the Electoral Act, and who makes the law? National Assembly makes the law. If any law that's going to affect INEC, even in its own operations, it has to be law made by National Assembly. And National Assembly is an institution, different from the individuals that occupy the chambers. The Assembly itself is constitutionally saddled with the responsibility of lawmaking. And then INEC must operate within the law. And then which law would they operate with? Is it the law that they made unto themselves? That becomes an administrative rule with which the chairman controls his staff. Is different from the laws made by Nigeria. And any law made by Nigeria is the law made by National Assembly. And it is only the national laws made by National Assembly that can dictate how INEC will operate. So this analogy of teacher-student relationship does not gel with INEC and National Assembly. It doesn't gel at all.
By Nzeakor, the president, when stating why he refused to sign this bill, he says it will infringe upon the constitutionally guaranteed discretion of INEC. And you talked about this constitution. Yes. Of course, even the lawmakers, of course, the constitution also binds all of them. And it is against the, don't think it will be going against the constitution if they decide to take away that responsibility, that role of INEC in organizing and also monitoring and even ordering how the elections should be conducted.
Before I answer your questions and go further, let me very quickly make this comment. My learned friend, Barrister Wale Ogunade, will allude to that the matter has become an issue before the court. True. So this, our debate, is not aimed at subverting what is before the court or influencing the decisions of the learned justices of the court, but only to enlighten our people and then widen the scope of our decisions.
That's correct.
So whoever that is listening to this debate should believe that we are not trying to influence the system, but we are trying, just as this program seeks to do, educate and enlighten our people. Now back to your question. The issue of whether INEC will have to operate within the law or not. If very easily they will resort to section 15 of the third schedule of the 1999 Constitution, paragraph A, which says that INEC has the authority to organize and hold election. Nobody is taking that authority from INEC at all. But the same section 15, paragraph I, says that INEC will have to carry through all other directives by the National Assembly.
Barrister Wale, you heard that paragraph I.
Yes.
It's a mischievous rule. It's a mischievous application.
Yeah, but it's there in the Constitution.
The Constitution.
The Constitution is quite clear in section 1.3.
So that means the Constitution could also be mischievous.
The Constitution is clear in section 1.3.
1.5.
That any law, no, not 1.3,
okay.
that any law that is inconsistent with any provisions of the Constitution is null and void. So even the law he has quoted now is erased by section 1.3 of the Constitution.
No, the law I'm quoting is, I have quoted the Constitution.
But the second leg, let me land. The second leg.
Let him land.
The second leg is that the National Assembly members know indeed that the Constitution is the supreme document.
Of course.
It's the ground law. And the Electoral Act is subservient to the Constitution. So anything that has to tinker with the Constitution must go through the way of amending the Constitution. And you cannot sit down in your chambers and think you want to amend the Constitution through the back door. That is what we call illegality or judicial rascality.
Okay then. The National Assembly trying to tinker with the Electoral Act, selfish interest or in national interest? Just
no, it's selfish. I've already
selfish interest or in national interest?
Purely in line with their responsibilities and duties. And their duties are all in national interest.
And their duties are all in national interest.
Their duties are all in national interest. Because their duties are supported by the Constitution. But please, let me quickly make this clear. I have not quoted anything outside the Constitution. So what I have quoted is a section, a subsection of Section 15 of the third schedule, which is, call it Section 15, paragraph I. Because they are holding on to paragraph A, which says
paragraph I.
Now, after all that, you go to paragraph I. Paragraph I says, and carry out every other responsibilities assigned to them by National Assembly. So if National Assembly, which has given INEC that Electoral Act of 2010, with which INEC has been operating, the same National Assembly has the authority to tinker with that Electoral Act, and it has so tinkered. INEC has nowhere to go other than to obey the law and carry out the duties and responsibilities given to it by the National Assembly in the Electoral Act. The issue as to why Mr. President has not assented to it, there are three reasons Mr. President gave.
Yeah.
The issue of reordering of election is not one of the reasons that infringes on the fundamental rights of people. There are other issues which they have touched regarding the reasons why somebody could go to a tribunal to challenge an election. And Mr. President says two items that were removed. One of them which had to do with tax. Mr. President feels that all those items should not be removed. And National Assembly, in its wisdom, has said they will have a second look at that. But on issue of reordering, it lies in their power legitimately so to do.
So why are they hot and strong on the issue of that reordering, if not because it borders on their personal interest?
But there are other issues. There are other issues in that bill. Some of them has to do with electoral offenses. Yes. Some even has to do with maybe approaching the tribunal for to seek redress in election matters. Yes. And other issues, but why is the focus on something as trivial as the election timetable?
It's not trivial. So they just want to be smart by half. It's just like hacking to the third term agenda. A whole lot of activities, good things were embedded in the third term agenda, but those projects. But because the third term was for Obasanjo's elongation of power, obviously it was thrown off. We people like us ensured that it was dead on arrival. The same thing here. Obviously, part of it is indeed that there will be this electronic voting. You can also try to connect with the audience too. It's about the electronic voting and so many other things, taking for transfer of results through electronic means. Yeah. But the most important thing is that this ordering, and you will agree with me that some few months ago, one of the members of the National Assembly, when he had issues, was when he remembered that he wants to go and relate with his constituents by building a constituency office in his constituents 2 years after, and this man has been collecting funds and money and allowances for this constituency building of projects. So, if not because of this issue, he won't have done anything. And here, where am I going? Is that he knows that he has failed. He has not connected with his constituents. And he knows that he's not going to get their votes. He's not going to get the party ticket. But the only way they can do it is to ensure that their own election comes first, again, which is against every principle. You are there to serve the people, not to serve yourself. As I talk to you now, how many youths have been empowered? How many bill or law has been made by these members of the National Assembly to ensure that the governor of the central bank makes provision for soft interest rate for young men to set up their own business? How many bills have they passed to ensure that in this farmers have access to loans or for them to have access to pesticide? How many bills have they passed?
But I want to quickly call my friend's attention to the issue. Let me quickly call Mr. Ogunade's attention to this debate that we are not X-raying activities of National Assembly.
It follows.
Another argument some people have advanced is that now reordering the election timetable separates the president's mandate from the mandate of these lawmakers. Something happened in 2015 when, of course, President Buhari was a very popular candidate at that time. And, you know, because of that, he was on the platform of the All Progressives Congress. Everywhere in the North, just say sack. If you're voting for members of the National Assembly, sack. APC, APC, APC. And some people felt that now look at it, they elected incompetent leaders because they jumped on that bandwagon effect caused by the President Muhammadu Buhari, that reordering this election will now mean that today you would want to know, who am I casting my vote for? Is it a lawmaker? Who is that lawmaker? Not just going to vote. You understand that effect? So that's the argument some people are saying that.
It's even good you cast my mind back. I am involved in electoral activities.
I'm aware.
I observe elections regularly. And I know that, and my people, you too know that on election day, the country is shut down. That is big economic risk and loss to the country. What we have before is a two-legged election, or we call it 2 rounds of election. Now, the National Assembly, because of their own selfish interest, want to elongate it by adding 1 more round to it, to making it a 3-round election. And of course, in the process again, the country will be shut down 3 times. That is one. Who pays for it? To organize an election is not a tea party. It costs billions of naira. And they, who are going to be beneficiaries, will not release a penny to INEC. They will not allow, or I will expect that they will say, okay, because we want our own election to be different, we will now take part of this humongous allowance, donate it or give part of it to INEC to organize our individual election. That is not what they are doing. But the most important thing is that, yes, the schedule, when they know that they have not performed, they know that they are going to manipulate the process at the various local levels to their own advantage. But if the presidential election comes first, which is a natural thing, everybody knows where it's going. In political palace, we call it the bandwagon effect. And of course, they will be swept away by the bandwagon effect. Then, not closing it up. The principle here in Yoruba land that I know is that if you have done well, you will be so happy about yourself. They know that they have not done well, and they do not deserve any shortcut to success.
When the presidential system of government was first introduced in 1979, the presidential election came first, and there was no qualms about it. But now, why does it seem like...
In 1979, now you're going historical. In 1979, the presidential election did not come first.
Really?
Yes. Presidential election came first in 1983. That was the first time presidential election was coming first. And then there was this landslide victory, with which MPN was accused of having rigged election massively. When we came back to democracy in 1999, presidential election did not come first. The other time the presidential election came first, even in 2003, presidential election did not come first. In 2007 and 2011, presidential election was held simultaneously with National Assembly election. And then in 2015, you recall, it was the immediate past election. Presidential election was held with National Assembly election. And what it now meant was that people were confused. Who were they voting for? Were they voting for Mr. President, or were they voting for the assemblyman? Anybody who loves Nigeria, including my friend Wale, who is chastising National Assembly for not doing their work, would want National Assembly to stand on their own. Let us know who our assemblymen are. And by standing on their own, that bandwagon effect should not be there. When you go to cast your vote, you know you are casting a vote for your assemblyman. And then when you are casting for Mr. President, you know you are casting a vote for Mr. President. But by the way, why is the presidency even afraid of the schedule? Is it only National Assembly that is afraid?
All right, well, who is afraid of a rescheduled election? Or who is afraid of a reordered election timetable? Well, we'll take a quick break at this point. When we return, it will be time for the Fire for Fire segment. You're still watching The Big Issue. back to the Fire for Fire segment. Well, learned friends, I would say. Let me read out the Riot Act. In this segment, it is the Fire for Fire segment. In this segment, it's a free-for-all. Both of you would face off. You can ask him a question. You can also ask him a question, counter his argument at any point. You are free to interject to counter his argument. If you don't, of course, you don't agree with what he's saying. That's why you're on this side, and that's why he's on this side. So likewise, you, sir. But it is not a boxing ring, and mind your language. Mr. Barrister Wale Ogunade, fire.
Yeah, my brother.
Be ready to counter the fire.
My brother.
We are used to it. We counter in court.
Members of the National Assembly.
Yes.
Have they really done well to deserve giving priority in the sequence of election?
We are not giving them priority. We are allowing them to do their work.
Okay.
And then any effort by anybody that does not allow them to do their work will be effort in futility, because the Constitution has asked them to do the work.
The second question.
To make laws for the good governance of Nigeria.
The second question.
That's their duty. Yes.
The second question.
Yes.
There is a principle of separation of powers in the Constitution.
There is.
Clearly.
There is the executive,
Yes.
the legislature,
Yes.
and the judiciary.
We know it.
The judiciary is doing its job now. Does it lie in the hand or in the mouth of the legislature to intimidate?
Who are they intimidating?
They are intimidating the judiciary. There is a matter in court that you alluded to some few seconds ago,
Yes.
and you know the routes they are taking. And they have submitted to jurisdiction. They have submitted
Was
to
it not a
jurisdiction.
political party that is even to be a medusum interloper that went to court?
That's it. A political party is a major stakeholder in the system.
I'm coming.
There was also a report,
It cannot be more major
SARS.
than National Assembly.
Yeah, but there was
the
also a
National
report that the
Assembly can be
Senate
more
plans
major.
to write to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, asking his judges
Yes.
to
Stay clear.
not
That's what it
necessarily
means.
state,
That's the
not
implication.
not to meddle into the affairs of the
That's the
National
implication.
Assembly, because the principles of separation of power
Yes.
is clearly stated.
Does that-
As the National Assembly, they have their duty to make laws.
To make
And the
laws.
judiciary, of course, to interpret
You have
these
to
laws.
wait instead of don't jump the gun. Wait, let them finish the lawmaking process
No, we
before you
can't
begin
wait.
to say this law is right or
my
this
brother,
law
excuse
is wrong.
me, my
As
brother,
we speak,
my
when
brother.
there is a contention between the executive and the judiciary, and the legislature, between the presidency and National Assembly, of course, you know that Supreme Court will have to look into the matter.
Yes,
Now
yes.
the matter is being looked into, but that's not why we are here. We are here to educate Nigerians and tell them that he who will win election in the morning can as well win election in the night. So you don't need to be afraid.
In winning the election,
Yes.
must you win fair and square, or you win through the back door?
Whether it is fair or square lies with INEC.
But let him tell us about this backdoor, because
Yes.
it's reordering the election timetable. Is
Does not
that
make it any
what you
backdoor. It doesn't make
is
it
that what you
backdoor.
refer to as the backdoor?
Let me just land and educate
Whether
people.
an election
Let me
is free
land-
or fair
let me-
lies in the hands of INEC. It does not lie in the hands of the
National
National
Assembly.
Assembly.
No.
Theirs is to make law
let me
and then
educate.
support INEC.
Let me educate.
Appropriate
Elections.
the money they will use to do the election and then play by the rules, and that's all.
Election
If
is-
INEC fails to conduct a credible election, INEC will be held accountable and not National Assembly.
Election is conducted by an election management body.
Called-
There are people who are stakeholders, called INEC. There are people who are stakeholders, the politicians,
Yes.
the political parties, and the voters. And of course, the political party play a very important role here, because it presents the candidate to the voter that INEC will present it officially to the public. If the political party that has a structure presents a candidate that is poor, that has no electoral value, as we call it, obviously, what will happen is that there will be rigging, there will be all these manipulations that will bring about violence and electoral brigandage. And to avoid that, we want a clear system. And that's why we are promoting that. No, if you want to tinker with the electoral rules, you will have given it long time.
Does tinkering has anything to do? Does it
you
have
have
anything?
to go through the constitutional
does
provision.
Adjustment
All
have
this
anything
what
to
they are
do
trying
with
to do
quality
through
of
the back door,
candidates?
just as I said, is
It
that
does
you have
not.
to do the adjustment that will include all the states of the federation.
The quality of candidate is determined by the political parties in the primary elections.
Amendment.
And not by the
You have told me that you give me the floor. I will yield the floor to you.
No, but
they are trying to amend the Constitution.
You are digging the floor. I've given it to you, but you're digging it.
I have to dig it.
No, you are digging the floor. Leave it level.
I have to dig in so that before you pull me out, you sweat a bit. So, the Electoral Act is a subsidiary legislation. The Constitution is clear that whenever anything is to be done concerning the Constitution, it must go through an amendment. At item 15A of the Constitution gives INEC the power to conduct, arrange, organize, and do all sorts of things that has to do with elections and electoral activities.
Then 15I.
They know that. 15I is an aberration. It is just, I told you.
The same Constitution.
It's the same Constitution.
The same chapter.
And the Constitution has already said
part.
that if there is anything that is inconsistent with this Constitution, it is null and void.
That means
you are giving me power.
That means the section. How is
that's it? It's inconsistent because that A has given INEC power.
That means the Constitution is inconsistent with itself.
Let people hear this. Let people hear this. INEC has been given power by Section 15A.
Then for Section 15I.
Then if something now says that members of the National Assembly have power to make law, let us now look at it logically. I know that my interest will be affected by something that you are doing, that you are giving you. I'll now open my eyes and allow you now to make that law that will affect me. It's time for you to answer my questions. Obviously, members of the National Assembly knows that they can make a law through the Electoral Act.
No problem.
And that is what they are doing now. Taking advantage of the Electoral Act, they will have gone to the Constitution to amend the Constitution, not the Electoral Act, because the Electoral Act is an in-house law that they can manipulate anyhow. Simple. Simple.
Now answer me. Which act did INEC use to conduct 2015 election?
No, it's the Electoral Act. It's the Electoral Act.
Which one?
It's the Electoral Act 2010.
2010.
Yes.
Beautiful. Who made that
amended.
Who made that act?
Members of the National Assembly. And it has nothing to do.
I'm coming.
It has nothing to do.
Who made that act?
It has nothing to do with the sequence.
No, I'm coming. Who made that act?
Members of the National Assembly.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Members of National Assembly made that 2010 Electoral Act.
Yes.
Do they have authority to amend the act?
They have the power to amend the act. You are not flowing with my argument.
No.
My argument is that
I want to hear you. I want to hear you loud and clear.
What they want to do
now. Do they have the constitutional power to amend the act?
They have the power to amend the act. Section 7 gives them that power.
If they have such power to amend the act, and they have so amended, what is wrong with the amendment?
What is wrong with the amendment is that this goes to the Constitution. This is a constitutional amendment.
It has nothing to do with Constitution.
They are telling us that INEC has no power.
There is no part of the Constitution that talks about election schedule. Section 25 of Electoral Act of 2010, which was made by National Assembly, assented to by the President, and which has guided INEC in conduct of 2011 and 2015 elections, which has put in the current executive and the current members of the legislature at state and national level. It is the same act made by National Assembly that they want to legitimately adjust. It is not only the issue of election schedule that is involved. The issue of electronic voting. You know, in 2007, there was nothing like PVC. There was nothing like card reader. In 2015, there was card reader. And the INEC is saying that even the next election, there will be a card reader. In order to accommodate the dynamics of development in our polity, National Assembly seeks to amend that election to bring it in tandem with the polity. Is there anything wrong with that? Absolutely nothing is wrong with that. The issue of timetable, they have not touched the timetable. The schedule is already in Section 25 of the Electoral Act of 2010. And then they have adjusted the schedule. And historically, Nigeria has not been maintaining a particular schedule. Sometimes they will do presidential election first. Sometimes they will do National Assembly election first. Sometimes we will do both State House and governorship election first.
Nzeakor.
So it has not been, it is not cast in gold or in stone.
We just told you that you have to educate.
What determines what is done is what the law has said. And that law is Electoral Act, given to INEC by National Assembly.
You alluded to the fact that indeed we are here to educate the people.
And that's exactly what we're doing.
To educate the people, we have to educate them devoid of politics, devoid of sentiments. Unfortunately, you and I are in the same platform.
No, but there's no sentiment in it.
We are all lawyers.
We have said,
the law must
we have
be,
given the fact
the law must be.
We have given the fact
as
they are.
In law that he knows, there's what we call the principle of consistency.
Yes.
If a law is not consistent, then definitely, where do we go? Tomorrow, you are the presidential election first. Next tomorrow, the Senate second, first.
In 2007,
then where do we go?
In 2007, it was different
ground.
from 2015.
That's why we are going. There is a law on ground for consistency. And if there is no consistency,
the only thing that is permanent in life is change itself.
No, that's why
anything
I made that
can
statement.
change at any time.
You are a lawyer, not a politician.
Can anything not change at any time?
A politician will make this
in
statement.
1993, we had two parties.
But you are a lawyer, and you know that the law must be definite. The law must be static.
In 1993,
we know that we must have a static
law.
We
had two political parties.
And apart from that,
in 2011, we had over 80 political parties. In 2015, over 36 political parties went for election. Next year, it has gone up again to about 600 political parties. Dynamics of life is permanent. So, and you cannot run away from change. That is why we are human beings. There was no PVC before, now there will be PVC. I tell you that sometime in future, Nigerians in diaspora will begin to cast their vote for the elections. That is change. Okay, and when that happens, Electoral Act will also be amended to accommodate it.
Okay, let me come in here. I was reading in the Punch newspaper where Nzeakor is the chairman of the National Conscience Party, where he said the president's veto can be likened to throwing the baby out with the bathwater. He says other serious issues in the bill, such as electronic voting, independent candidate, diaspora voting, like he just said, and other electoral offenses have been thrown out because of something as
minute
as the
infinitesimal
as the election
as the schedule,
as the schedule of the election. But there are other bigger issues. Why so much emphasis on whose election comes first?
You call it minute, but as I talk with you, there is a dearth of representation by members of the National Assembly. They have not done their job very well. And again, to really coast everything home or to make it strong, they are supposed to be in the various hallowed chambers doing their legislative duties. But anytime excuse me, anytime I have to go there once in a while, or for those who don't have the opportunity of going there, they beam it on the national television. You find out that hallowed chamber indeed is very shallow. There are very few people who are there. Where are they? They are gone on their business.
Those are your words.
Their attempt to amend the electoral with all these things in it, would you call it shallow?
We call it shallow?
It's shallow because it has no bearing with the people.
Shallow, talking about making people's votes count, using electronic voting. Because electronic voting would one way or the other try to get rid of rigging.
Mine is that the issue of their sequence, they are attaching everything to the sequence of election. They know what they are doing. The president brought the bill separately to them. They now lumped it together so that they know that if they want to take the bill on the sequence of election bill, the electronic bill and co, the president will sieve it. But for them to achieve their aim,
is it the duty of Mr. President to make laws? Is it the duty?
Barrister Nzeakor, but you know, in all of this, there is a political undertone. Some senators walked out. They say that this amendment
will make Mr. President
about all these
will make Mr. President to fail election.
That is targeted, not that it will make Mr. President
lose an election. Mr. President.
But they say it is targeted at Mr. President. And you don't expect Mr. President to sign a bill that is targeted at him or that seeks to thwart his political ambition.
Mr. President is representing one party. Is he not? And he cannot, even if the other parties adopt him, there are other contenders. So much as Mr. President is standing for election, others are also standing for election. It is the duty of Nigerians to decide who they want to become their president. Those who say he's targeted at Mr. President can easily be described as not only busybodies, but notice pa.
The president must support their own ambitions and ensure that they all win at the polls, so that in return, they would also ask people to support the president. So it's like, scratch my back, I scratch your back. That is what they are trying to achieve.
It is even good for Mr. President to separate himself from them.
But must he scratch their back?
Must they scratch his own?
So what?
Don't they have back to be scratched?
I know.
Is it only Mr. President that has back? Everybody has back to be scratched.
I told you he's a politician.
Right? So if Mr. President wants his back to be scratched, people will turn their back to be scratched. And then we Nigerians,
Who will scratch our back?
That's where I'm going. Who will scratch our own back? You see, the big men are scratching their backs. Who will scratch our backs?
over there in Abuja scratching their backs.
Who will scratch
Let
our
us
backs?
use our thumb to determine who will scratch our own back.
At least we are agreeing on that point that indeed you'll find out that the political class will always unite, no matter what. It is you, the people, that will ensure that indeed you scratch your own back.
Yes.
Because nobody will help you scratch your back.
For yourself, for you.
It is you. Because you are the one who are suffering. I have been opportune to go around some countries in this world, and I know that the system provides for the people, particularly the youths. What does the system provide for us in this country? And that's one of the pain I have, that indeed there is nothing. Thank you. There is nothing that there is a law that will insist that a government institution takes care of the youth or the less privileged. Everybody is on his own. And it can't continue like that.
On this one, I stand with you completely.
Thank you, my brother.
On this one, I stand with you.
So we are united. Since you are united, let me scratch your back. Scratch my back.
I also scratch the back of
the people.
Of the audience.
So and that will be after this break.
Yes.
You're still watching The Big Issue. Welcome back. An interesting debate in the house today, and it's question time. Compassion, your question.
Firstly, my question goes to Barrister
Nzeakor.
Nzeakor. Initially, Barrister Ogunade has that National Assembly doesn't perform its duty very well, and it has that they fail to pass some bills. One of them is whistleblower bills. Since all these days, there have been whistleblower bills. Since all these days, so they didn't pass the bill. Secondly, the issue of criminal cases bill. What's wrong with the bill? Since all these days,
there are so many. There are so many bills passed by National Assembly that are waiting for presidential assent. On the whole, about 10 of them that are waiting for Mr. President to assent. And then there are so many bills that are also in the works. I am not a spokesman of National Assembly, so there's a limit to which I will defend them. There's a limit to which I will defend them. What I'm here to defend is that the schedule for the election has nothing to do with the outcome of 2019 election. I have my own grouse with some issues done by National Assembly, as much as we all have. I also have some grouse with some things done by the presidency. I have my grouse generally with leadership of Nigeria, because leadership of Nigeria is not progressive-minded. So I cannot defend anybody. I cannot defend anybody unduly. And that is why I stand today and tomorrow to say that we need to restructure Nigeria. It's a debate for another day.
Okay, but I think he's trying to say that the controversy or the attempt to tinker with the Electoral Act is not a matter of urgent national importance.
It is urgent because election is coming. Election is timed. In Constitution says 4 years. And the same Constitution has given INEC authority to start an election at a particular time. And the Electoral Act has said within so and so time you must. There are chains. There's a time you display voter register. There's a time you announce election dates and the rest of them. And because you cannot extend the tenure of the current administration, they must leave by May 29 next year.
We've been through a lot in the past 4 years. And so how does this translate to progress?
How does election ordering or sequence translate to the progress of Nigeria or the progress of Nigerians?
That question is for both of you.
Yes.
Barrister Nzeakor,
Yes.
go first.
It only translates to 3 square meters for you. It can only translate to progress for Nigerians if Nigerians shine their eyes and vote in the right candidates. That's all. Because everything about leadership, everything about progress of a country starts and ends with leadership. So Nigerians must be cautious. Nigerians must not fall for stomach infrastructure. Nigerians must not fall for the pittance that they give at elections. Nigerians must open their eyes and vote in the right candidates.
All right, Barrister Ogunade, quickly.
I want to thank God for my sister who asked this question. God bless you. And I guess that's the question on the minds of majority of Nigerians. What is in for me, all this their fight? And just as we hilariously adopted or played out with my friend, that I scratch his back, he scratched my back. That's what obtains up there. They care less about you, the downtrodden people. And unfortunately, you are the one that has made them. Without your vote, they can occupy office. And for you to now show them that indeed you are the Oga, shine your eyes, as my brother has said. Never again will people come to you and say they have been tested and trusted, and you just vote them in on that footing. There are people in your various communities who have been involved in ensuring that your communities are okay. If they don't want to come out, push them out and say, we are ready to support you. We don't need your penny. We know you that indeed you deliver. Go and represent us in Abuja. Go and represent us in the various state assembly. That's how we can get Nigeria better. But with this issue, they can't get anywhere. They are not out for you. And that, I've been saying it. I go around, I see that in other climes, in other countries, the system takes care of the youth, it takes care of the vulnerable. But in Nigeria, everyone is on his own.
Judges, my name is John Akrele. I just want us to understand one key point this time. If you should look at all the elections we've been having in time past, the power of incumbency always affects other results that comes up. Take the presidency. If APC should win at presidency, you are sure that the effect will come down even to the local government level. So now in this case, if the senatorial election should come first, which I know that any senator that did not do very well will not earn the vote of the people. That is sacrosanct and that is true. But my fear is that what happened in 2015 might repeat itself come 2019, where history will repeat itself. So the question now is, even the lawyers are part of where we have in the country today. Both of you are learned colleagues, and you have not given us a straight road to put through this time around. Do you understand? So my point to everybody now is, please make sure you look for the people you are voting for come 2019. Thank you.
Yes, I guess we are on the same. That's what your closing statement is what I said earlier on.
But I object to you saying that we are the problem.
No, I'm going there. Lawyers are not lawmakers. The lawyers work with the law on ground. And the law on ground is from you people. Who are the you people? You are the one who represents people who make laws. If you elect good people to go and make law,
they'll give you good laws.
They'll give good laws. And we lawyers will have less stress. But since there are laws that are bad, then obviously the lawyer will work with the bad laws and you continue to cry. So for you not to cry again, ensure that you vote in who? Good people.
All right.
My question goes to the two of you actually. One of you actually mentioned that we should shine our eyes and vote for the right person. All this while we'll be voting for, they will come out for campaign saying that vote for us, we do this, we do that. And we didn't say anything. Now you're saying we should vote for the right person.
Have you voted before?
Yes, I did once, actually.
And you know the person you voted for. You knew the person as you know him very well. You see the problem?
And you say we should vote for we should shine our eyes.
Saying.
And now we're going to get, even if the presidential election should come first, or anyone should come first, and anyone should, how are we going to know the right person? Okay,
it's a simple thing. The elections are coming. The campaign time is coming. Obviously, they will start campaigning. You will not do campaign by poster. Some of you just see them by poster. In fact, for your information, on election day, sometimes I will be in a local place monitoring election. Some people will come and ask me, Oga, which can vote then they vote today? I don't know who to vote for. It's as bad as that.
All right, let's quickly.
That simply shows it is still that adage, shine your eyes. Pick interest in what is going on.
Good.
Know who you are voting for.
Yes.
Ask questions.
Be involved.
If you don't have the answers, ask questions and then be enlightened about who you are voting for. And not vote because you like that man on that poster, or you like that woman on that poster, you go and cast your vote.
Or it's from your tribe.
Or they say you should vote. Or they say they are sharing something. Even after collecting, I will not tell Nigerians not to collect anything. I will not. I will tell Nigerians, even if you collect anything, vote your conscience and vote for the person that you like.
You. Another question, quickly. No, sit. Excuse me, your question has to be very brief. Go ahead, straight to the point.
87 parties. Presidential election, February 16th. National Assembly election, February 16, 2019. Governorship and State Assembly election, March 2nd, 2019. My question is very clear. The time, between now and that time, I believe the time is too short for the National Assembly to come up, to tinker, with the Constitution and the Electoral Act, to amend. As far as I'm concerned, I think the time is short. Then, I also want to say that why is it now? Why is it now that the National Assembly members have come up, with this? Why have they not come up with this earlier?
All right.
87 parties is a lot,
His question is,
yes.
Why
now? That's my question.
Why now?
Why now? Why now? Okay, let's Barrister Nzeakor, why now?
We still have enough time.
So that's why he smells a rat. Why
He wouldn't
now?
smell a rat. He should ask the presidency, why don't you assent to the bill?
No.
Why wouldn't you assent to the bill? And I tell you that if the presidency has refused to assent to that bill, National Assembly has the same constitutional right to override Mr. Presidential veto.
I guess there is a mistake here. The National Assembly can only override the president for issues of financial matters. So I want to believe so. Let us look at the Constitution.
On all laws.
On all laws, you are sure. Let's look at the Constitution very well. On election day, most of you refuse to go out and vote. But even before then, as I'm talking to you now, how many of you have PVCs? We've been shouting, most of us, I'm one of those who ensure that the PVC regime does not close until some 60 days before the election. Some of you don't have your PVC. Election is not an event. It is a process. You must go and struggle to know a lot of things about this. You can't sit down and say, it is the lawyers. No. When you refuse to partake in the process, then those who now partake in the process, the wrong ones, will go in there and make bad laws for you. And you now see lawyers now fighting amongst each other. Some good lawyers will go to defend the people as we are defending here. Some bad ones will want to, but again, it is their work. That is what the lawyer is trained for. It's just like a doctor. You bring a child who you have mismanaged at home, you take him to a doctor. It is the duty of the doctor to make the child all right. The same thing the lawyer. You have issues with the law, you go to a lawyer, he takes care of it.
Let's quickly take our question.
Whether the Senate election comes first or the presidential election comes first, let us look at who is coming. Let us see the person. Let us see the credibility of such person. But even if it comes 2 years or any time, elections, of course, there's a date for the election. Our responsibility or our duty is to be careful. Let us see who is coming.
All right, another question to the lady.
I'm Elizabeth Olukoya. Sir, Mr. Nzeakor. Barrister Nzeakor. You made mention of the INEC being independent. Why is that INEC independent if they cannot carry out and discharge their duties without depending on the National Assembly? Okay. Why are they independent?
Beautiful. INEC independence does not mean that it will not operate within the law. Everybody, including Mr. President,
and members of your National Assembly.
And members of the National Assembly. And even the citizenry, everybody operates within the law. It is that law that is made by National Assembly at national level and the State Assembly
and not illegal laws.
At state level. So INEC is independent to the extent that nobody is quarreling with it. It sets its own timetable, it conducts its own election, it does everything, but it must be within the law. And that law that guides INEC, 2 laws. 1, the Constitution of Nigeria and the Electoral Act.
All right, then a round of applause for our debaters. Well, we've had a very interesting time, a very hot debate here in the House today, and we'll take a short break at this point. When we return, it will be time to coast home. You're watching The Big Issue. back. It is still the big issue. Well, gentlemen, your final take. Should we allow the National Assembly tinker with the Electoral Act? Or should we allow them put or schedule the presidential election before other elections? Your last take on this debate.
My last take on it is that National Assembly is an institution saddled by the Constitution to make laws for order and good governance of Nigeria. And as much as they still have that authority, we should allow them to do their work. It is immaterial which election comes first or which election comes last. What is important is that our people, the electorate, the people who have the power and the authority to decide who becomes what, open their eyes and make sure that when the election time comes, the credible people are elected in leadership positions of Nigeria so that this country will begin to move forward. This country will begin to solve most of its myriad of problems that is bedeviling Nigeria, which even infants have started knowing that Nigeria is a nation that needs to be redeemed.
Barrister Wale Ogunade.
The National Assembly is out to make law. That's what they're out to do. Good laws, not bad laws.
Is this a bad law?
Good laws and not bad laws. They are supposed to make laws for the good order of the country, not disorder the country. Laws are supposed to be consistent and persistent. This law, just as one of the audience have said, they are confused. Some few months to the election, you want to tinker with the law. You've been there for 3 years. You've not done anything. Now that you are coasting home and you know that indeed the system or the setup is against you or will be against your own office particularly, you now want to move it. And of course, I went to school, and I know several of you audience too. You went to school. If you are going to start anything, it's either from 1 or you start from the top, 10 or 100, the last word. Not you start from the middle. The election of the National Assembly is in the middle. And they are now bringing it from the middle and putting it in front. Obviously, that is causing confusion. We should allow for a state of order, which they are empowered by the Constitution to carry out, not a state of disorder. I rest my case.
Well, it doesn't matter your standpoint for the National Assembly tinkering with the election or against the National Assembly tinkering with the election. At this point, I would ask both of you to bury the hatchet here. What happens on the big issue stays with the big issue. So you shake hands.
Hey, my brother, not only shake hands, but I'm afraid of him embracing me. You know he's huge.
A round of applause for them. All right, and thank you very much. That's how it has been on the program today. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is @Femi TVC. You can also connect with us at TVC Connect and also at TVC News NG. Of course, vote right and vote wisely. Thank you very much. This is the big